Okay, it's Friday, March 27th, around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And this is the last song on my latest album, The Humboldt Trip, which kind of came out of nowhere starting a couple weeks ago. This week I just took one song a day and kind of talked about it, talked about a lot of the influences, but I've talked about this stuff so many times that it's like I kind of repeat myself and I kind of go through the same themes a lot of the time. So I do tend to do that. But anyone, if you talk for half an hour a day, which is not something I wouldn't suggest doing. If you talk to yourself for half an hour a day as like a therapy session, which is good, I think it's healthy. Especially, I'm very introverted even throughout most of my adult life, so I've had to kind of rely on that. But anyway, if you talk to yourself for half an hour to an hour a day, like I've been doing this week, you're going to repeat yourself and a lot of the same themes and neuroses, neurotic tendencies that you've developed throughout your life, I guess, that is kind of affecting your day to day life. And I guess this will wrap up the album in a very mellow fashion. A lot of people talk about that when you listen to podcasts about albums, ranking albums. Yesterday, I listened to this guy rank 30 Fela Kuti albums, but I didn't get through it all because I'm trying to do that myself. One of my missions right now is to go through every Fela Kuti album because I feel like I have some connection to that dude, even though we're kind of like polar opposites. He lived in Nigeria in a time that was crazy corrupt. Like people would come and like invade his house. They threw his like mother from the window of his home and like killed people. So he had a lot of crazy shit in his life, and he had tons of sex, and I have no sex, so we're different in that way too. But yeah, there's some controversial stuff about the guy, but that's probably why. Well, it's not the only reason, but maybe that's why he developed such a unique sound. I recommend again the podcast series Fear No Man, Fela Kuti. That was my education that I just listened to a couple weeks ago. I didn't know all that stuff. It's pretty crazy the way shit went down in his life. It's similar to that Bob Marley story, how the government or one of the political parties had a problem with Bob Marley and they like raided his house and tried to assassinate him and his, I don't know if people died, I forget the whole story, but there's some crazy shit, man. I don't know if anything like that has happened in America, but I'm probably just naive. I'm sure it has to famous people or just influential people. Because once you have an influence like Bob Marley, the whole country listens to you. You're going to be used and manipulated by the state for whatever purpose they want, or at least they're going to try to. I remember reading a book called Astral Weeks about Van Morrison, and they talked about that in his early days in America. Van Morrison, like, I think he was involved business wise with the mob because the mob was a part of the music business, and like, I think one time they shot up his house or apartment or something. So there's some crazy shit, man. Why do I feel connected to Fela Kuti? Going on this tangent now. I don't know. I just think the dude made awesome music that was unique, and he just wanted to go outside of the norm, making 20-minute tracks. And the cool thing with that is that everyone has a different opinion. Napoi, or Nopoi, I forget how to pronounce the name. I fell in love with that album a couple days ago, yesterday, I think. And then the guy who I watched on YouTube had it as his worst album, Napoi, Napoi, from like early 70s, I think. But I loved it. It was so drony and shit and really connected with me yesterday. I like the drone stuff, so even if it's the same thing repeated over and over again. Yeah, Napoi, if I'm saying that correctly. Fela Kuti, Africa 70 from 1971, excuse me. Check that album out. It'll be interesting to see people's different reactions to it. I fell in love with it, but I guess some people thought it was too weird in the beginning until it got going. But that's the beauty of the Fela Kuti experiment I'm doing now, because I want to rank all his albums on just the first initial listen. A lot of times albums will grow on you, so it's not the most scientific way to do it. This is a different experience. I'm just going to listen to every album once. But I've heard Zombie a lot, and I've heard the one with Roy Ayers a couple times, where that was actually the first time I learned of Fela Kuti. And I'll just finish here so I don't spend 10 minutes talking about this again. It was record store day, and I went to a store in Collingswood, New Jersey, and they had it playing on the record player. And I remember I was at a casino all night playing poker. This is like a decade ago. And I drove home early that morning from Philly, and I guess, yeah, it must have been Parks Casino. I think I played poker all night, and I did pretty well. So then I saw a line of people in front of the record store in the town I used to live in. So I was like, fuck it, I'm already awake. It's 7 in the morning. So I just didn't go home to sleep. I just waited in line, and then record store day, that was the only time I experienced it, I think. And I spent maybe over $100. And one of the albums I bought was the Fela Kuti and Roy Ayers. I forget what it's called, but I loved it. So I know that album, and I know Zombie, and maybe a couple other ones, but that's basically my only knowledge of Fela Kuti. So it's cool to go through a discography, and it's going to take me maybe a month to go through all his stuff, because I'm only doing maybe 5 albums a week, if that, because it's kind of hard to do. You have to get in the mood to just listen to an album, or while I'm doing my visual art or writing something, I'll listen to it. But I also want to like really pay attention to it too, to really see how it affects me. But the best way I do that, honestly, is when I do something else. Like Napoi, I was probably reading yesterday in the library, and I had Napoi on. And was it yesterday? Yeah. And it didn't really hit me until maybe 10 minutes in, and then I was like, wow, this is awesome. It was the same bass and just really mellow flavor, and it just caught my ear, and I was like, this is amazing. So music goes like that for me. If I'm like actively listening to something and I'm like trying to judge if it's good or not, it doesn't really work like that. I have to be doing something else. And then I'll notice if it's connecting with me while my brain is occupied with some other task. So I don't know if other people can relate to that. All right, so that's enough of rambling in the beginning here. Why did I mention Fela Kuti? I don't know. I just started thinking of him again yesterday, because I listened to like 3 or 4 albums of his, and I just started remembering stuff I heard about his life. And yeah, it's hard to complain when people like Fela Kuti existed and they went through all kinds of evil, violent shit. Like, he had some crazy experience in his life that he wrote. He used music as an outlet, and that's what I try to do. I don't have the army raiding my bedroom and throwing people out windows and tear gassing people and invading with machine guns. So I don't know what that's like, but he even wrote stuff about Lagos, Nigeria, like the traffic problems and all this other crazy stuff. And just look at his album covers. They're so different. They're meaningful. Just looking at the album covers, you know you're going to be in for some kind of wild ride. So I connect with the dude. I don't know if I could ever make music like he does, but I do want to implement jams at least. I love just listening to a 20-minute jam that goes on and on and on and on, even if it's repetitive. I have a brain that really likes that monotony of Swans and Glenn Branca, Earth. That's more the no wave stuff, but even jazz or ambient, droney ambient is my preferred way to listen to ambient music because it is a meditative experience that can kind of take over your breathing, like in your heartbeat. You listen to really peaceful, healing music, and it like becomes a part of your body rhythm. It takes over your brain waves. I don't know, man. Whatever you want to put there to make it sound poetic. But, all right, that's the little preamble that I do. That's about 10 minutes in. So the song today, let me get to that now. It's called In a Little Brick House. I briefly spoke about this. I was driving somewhere, I forget where. It might have even been around here in South Jersey somewhere. Around Morristown, Mount Laurel. And there was like a little brick house in the middle of this commercial district. And it was just the one house like by itself. I don't know if people lived in it or not. And I just thought it was interesting. So I just started humming the melody and I recorded something while I was driving. Just like a couple minutes long of some melody ideas. In a little brick house, do-do-do-do-do-do, in a little brick house. And that was the first song I really wrote. I think it was still in the winter time, maybe February or early February. And that's when I decided, all right, I don't know what this is. I'll just save it, which I do all the time. I think of a song like that, and I'm like, I don't know where that's going to fit, but maybe one day it'll fit somewhere. And that's how I handle it. And I just thought I went back to it when I started developing this album, and I was like, I think this would work as the closer, because it's almost like, you could find, I'm probably making stuff up now to make it sound more meaningful than it really is, because I don't really know what the meaning of this song is, but maybe it is that you can find a home anywhere, even if you're stuck in the middle of some shopping mall, shopping center. It's weird to live if you would put a house in the middle of a shopping district, like you're in a commercial zone and you just live there. That would be very weird to live like that. That could be convenient. You could just walk to Walmart every day. But whatever. I guess that's kind of where the song was headed, meaning in terms of the theme, or if there's any meaning to the lyrics, that you can make a home anywhere, even in some shitty little brick house in the middle of a shopping district. And that's kind of where this song evolved, I guess. There's not a lot of lyrics, and it's really not that poetic when you look at the lyric. When I'm looking at the lyrics now, it's just very straightforward. Made me think of Wilco, made me think of Allman Brothers, because I added a part yesterday that was from the Cursed Apple song, and I thought it would fit at the end of this song. So right now, the only bands that I'm really thinking of that inspired this track is Wilco and Allman Brothers. But maybe I'll think of something else later. There is like an indie rock appeal to this, indie alt country. So I always think of Wilco or bands like that. But I really don't. I'm kind of out of the loop on that. When it comes to modern bands that are like indie, folky, maybe the Beths, they're like a New Zealand band. I kind of like them a little bit. But I'm sure I'm forgetting about stuff too. But I used to be more into it. Where Wilco I got into in high school. I got Misunderstood, or Being There, Being Here. What's that album? It was like a double CD, I think. let me look this up because it's gonna bug me. But I just remember the song "Misunderstood." That's one of the best, in my opinion, one of the best album openers. I think it was the first song, and that song always stuck with me. I would love to see that live because I've seen, yeah, Being There from 1996. That's the Wilco that I fell in love with. I don't really know anything else, just bits and pieces of other songs that I've heard along the way. But Being There was the one that really stuck with me since I was a teenager. It's produced really well, and every song's good. It's got maybe close to 20 songs. Yeah, 19 songs, I think. And Misunderstood is the first one. Far, Far Away, Monday. Every single song is good. It's really an amazing album. I don't remember all of them, but Out of Mind, Out of Sight, yeah. But I got into Wilco later after that too. The one with Billy Bragg, Mermaid Avenue stuff, and even the Yankee Hotel, Foxtrot. It's good. I didn't like it as much as this one, but I get why people liked it. The indie quality of it. And the more experimental side, I probably like it more now if I listen to it again. And the other band I mentioned was Allman Brothers. Don't ask me about Allman Brothers. I don't know the whole story. I know, the tragedy. One of the brothers died and from like a motorcycle accident or something. And yeah, they just seemed like cool guys. They had a really good groove. I kind of related today to like the Susan Tedeschi thing, so maybe I'll find a song from her band. Because whenever I hear that live, I think of Allman Brothers a little bit. It's the same kind of textures and atmosphere that they create. And yeah, they rock pretty hard. Susan Tedeschi band. I don't know what it's called, but maybe I'll find a song to share from her because I don't share for this album. I don't think I've shared a lot of female voices, so I'm probably lacking in that. I do consider that sometimes, like because I am. Well, Kathleen Edwards was the one. Yeah, I did share Kathleen Edwards because she inspired one of these songs, the Lost and Found song. But maybe a lot of these were more male, a lot of male voices instead of female stuff. But I've been influenced just as much by females as males, I think at least. As a kid, maybe just No Doubt. No Doubt was a big influence on me. I rocked out to that proudly, man. And I don't know, I can't really, putting myself on the spot, I can't really think of anything else as a teenager. Alanis Morissette was cool. I listened to that album a couple years ago, Jagged Little Pill, and I really didn't like it that much. There was a couple songs like I think One Hand in My Pocket. That's a great song. I would rock that song. I love that song, One Hand in My Pocket. But I had that CD as a kid, or as a teenager, and maybe freshman year of high school. And yeah, that was the big thing back then. I'm forgetting about stuff, but I'm sure later I'll think of other female voices. But what I really got into was just harmonies, I guess, later in life, in my early 20s, with the Gillian Welch, Dave Rawlings harmonies, and Alison Krauss, and then like more folky Americana stuff. The harmonies are just so good if you can get Johnny Cash and June and voices like that just blend together so perfectly. But it's tough to find. Maybe it's not. There was a band. I was going to say it's tough to find stuff like that today, but there was a band, War and Treaty, that was actually pretty cool. So maybe I'll share them too because I fell in love with them a couple couple years ago. War and Treaty. They had some crazy harmonies. There's a lot of actually there are a lot of bands on XPN in Philadelphia that feature that harmony of voices. I always forget this band's name, but whatever. I'll think of it later. It goes along with like the kind of like the Punch Brothers and that type of bluegrass stuff. Man, there's a band that I always forget their name. I can't think of it. But whatever, regardless, let me go through this stupid song. It's called In a Little Brick House. It's the most simple, probably just acoustic song on this entire album. And I think it's a good closer. Like you go through this entire album, and I was thinking yesterday this might be my most diverse attempt of writing an album. Anyone and Everyone, song 1 is kind of like a spoken word Alabama Shakes type of thing. Song 2, Zombie, again, that's the Fela Kuti inspired song. Song 3 was West Coast Time, which is like, I hear it as a club song, like Pitbull or whatever club dude or woman is hot right now. I don't fucking know. Who was the other person I was thinking of? Bad Bunny. Yeah, like it would be that element of just club music. Song 4 is the Kathleen Edwards, Lost and Found. Song 5 is that funky Something Going On in My Head, which was like Stevie Wonder, James Brown. Another Cursed Apple. Another song about cursed apples is song 6, and that's like Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Mama Leak. Yesterday I did song 7, Don't Fear the Pacifist. That was like the hardcore punk, Bad Religion, Neutral Milk song. Also like the Sam Fender I. And the song today is like Wilco and Allman Brothers, and War and Treaty, Tedeschi Band. So this album might be my most diverse that I'm trying to fit together to make it work somehow. Because it shouldn't work as an album, but throughout the album, I have skits going because it is kind of like a movie of a guy driving across the country or driving somewhere to try to find a new place to exist. And that's kind of the concept, the story that I'm going for. So it works that every track, it's almost like he's tuning the radio to a different channel. And that's why the music is so diverse, but it works as a whole. It should work as a whole, at least. So let me go through the song before I talk my brain into circles again. So verse 1, in a little brick house where they built a highway through the winter unbound. The flame was falling in a little brick house. 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 So I hear this very quiet, very meditative, ambient even. I don't know if it's a piano thing, but I don't really hear piano a lot because I don't understand piano music. I've never tried learning piano, so I don't really speak that language. I never really hear a piano in music. Lately, I've been hearing drums, and maybe I'm becoming a better composer, in my brain at least. I hear drums now. You know, a lot of songs I did for this album, I was hearing drums kind of. So I don't know the main instrument would be for this, but it's probably like just an acoustic guitar with maybe like a violin or a cello in a little brick house. You could add some very sappy, melancholic, but also happy like cello part there during the chorus. You go to verse 2, the price of a mile, the pace of an army, when there's no looking back, the veil unguarded in a little brick house, in a little brick house. Do, do, do. I'm trying to mimic like either violin strings or a cello thing there. In a little brick house. After that second verse, I would say, yeah, just do an instrumental there, either with the cello. Maybe this is the cello song because I don't mention cello, but I do like that. I don't know if Wilco really utilizes that, but it seems like they would in some songs. They get kind of ballady and sentimental about stuff. I don't know. Wilco's kind of weird. They have happy songs, they have sad, somber stuff, but any band does. And I don't know their more recent stuff at all. I kept up to date with Spoon. For some reason, Spoon and Wilco kind of go together in my head, like they're brothers from a different mother or something. Spoon and Wilco, because I guess I got into them at the same time in my life. But I kept up with Spoon. I really like Spoon. I even said Spoon might be the best band like of the last 20 years, whatever. They've been around for a long time, man. And they just have great songwriting skills, both of those bands, Wilco and Spoon. All right, so I mentioned Spoon, so I'll have to share something from them. Even their last album was really amazing. I listened to it a couple weeks ago. So after verse 2, you would go into some kind of instrumental, whatever I can think of right now. I think it's a cello, but it could be anything at that point. It could be synthesizer. I don't fucking know. Verse 3, in a little brick house where the tower's haunted, the commercial distorts day's diversion. In a little brick house, in a little brick house. And then you have like the other violin doing like a faster riff or whatever they call a violin piece. Can you riff on a violin? Like Jimmy Page? I don't know. So that's the whole song in terms of the verses and the chorus, but I feel like at this point the guy would tune his radio and, well, no, I'm sorry. It goes to a bridge after that. After verse 3, it goes to a bridge. After verse 3, you probably go into some other instrumental, make it sappy and real beautiful, some kind of cello, violin thing. And then you go to the bridge, which is, again, you're going to that repetitive phrase throughout this whole album that binds it together. Embrace that all clear, all right. Embrace that all clear, all right. Embrace that all clear. So at that point, you think the song's over. Embrace that all clear. But it's not over. It's a fake ending. Sucker. You stupid bitch. It's just a fake ending. I faked out the listeners. So then they go into, again, it goes, embrace that all clear. You pause for a little bit. And then it goes into the outro. This is where the Allman Brothers, I was going to call it the Allman Brothers. The Allman Brothers. Is there a band called the Allman Brothers? like a Allman Brothers tribute band. Hey, we're the Allman Brothers. We're giving out free almonds after the show. Like Andy Kaufman, chocolate chip cookies. So you go into the outro, and it's very much like an. I hear Allman Brothers just because it sounds like that southern rock type of thing. Embrace that all clear, all clear. June. And you go into this outro section from that. Did they eat that cursed apple? Do. Did they eat that cursed apple? Do. Did they eat that cursed apple? Do. They eat that cursed apple. Do. When they eat that cursed apple, the story bleeds to keep the animals fed. Do. You get the idea. I'm not going to try to mimic all this shit. They eat the cursed apple. It's cool that I ended the song there, and that's how this song would end. That's the end of my shitty singing for the day. Because originally, when I wrote the Cursed Apple song, that was what I'm singing right now was the original chorus, but it didn't fit the song. But I was like, I really like that. And then yesterday, I was like, I still had that melody in my head. Did they eat that cursed apple? Did they eat that cursed apple? The melody kept playing in my head, and I was like, all right, I got to use this because I'm going to forget it at some point. So I decided to put it as the outro to the entire album, and I do think it works. I think it does uplift the ending because it's kind of a sad, kind of a, not boring, but kind of a ballady song. And this will make it more of an epic ending, which I like to do. I'm fine with ending an album with a ballad or a slow composition, but I also love it to go out on a high note, like the Beatles. I always go back to the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper with A Day in the Life, right? When it goes into that crazy orchestration at the end. That's pretty amazing. I still think it works so well to end an album like that with like this crazy orchestration crescendo, and it just fades out like in a blip. And yeah, that's where I'm going with this. So I'll share the Beatles as well, since that's probably, if somebody asked me what's your favorite opening song to an album, it might be Misunderstood by Wilco. And then conversely, if somebody asked me what's your favorite album closer, I don't think you could really beat Beatles' Day in the Life. Like, yeah, I'm sure people will have their own favorites. And this is kind of one that's very simpy. Oh, he's just picking another Beatles song, man. But it's such a good album closer, like you can't deny it. I feel like Sgt. Pepper is still my favorite one because it is a concept album of some kind. And it's just more all over the place. Revolver is too, I guess, musically. But I don't know. They're both just really good. So it's stupid to try to rank stuff sometimes. A lot of people lately put Abbey Road in the conversation as like the best one. But I never really had an emotional connection to Abbey Road or the White Album. Maybe it's just too long. The White Album. But I was always Sgt. Pepper first, and maybe the Revolver won me over a little, so that's like tied for first, maybe. just because of the Indian stuff. Once they implemented the Indian music, it really got me curious about other types of music. So that's very influential to me. But that's going to wrap it up. I'm at 35 minutes, and this went by pretty quickly today. I still get nervous trying to sing this stuff, so it's like, I'm telling you, like, I don't know if I could ever perform songs in front of people, like, even doing this by myself. Like, it's hard for me to sing these things. I can hopefully at least give you an idea of what the melody sounds like and what the structure of the song is. But if I actually had to record this professionally and sing it, I don't know how it would come out because that's not really my style. I don't know what my style is really. I'm probably going to rely on spoken word stuff for a lot of the stuff I do someday because it just fits me more. Even though, like, well, I was going to say Patti Smith stuff, but she was able to sing at least. She could carry a melody. I don't know who to compare my voice to. I know who I want to sound like. Like, I think the Matthew Logan Vasquez, Dave Grohl, like the raspiness. But also, you have to fit the type of music you're trying to play. So, a lot of the songs on this album don't fit my voice at all. The Kathleen Edwards one, I don't know how I would get through that. Or the Fela Kuti one, I'm going to be thinking of his voice. Maybe the first one I could do myself because it's like just spoken word rap stuff. But whatever, that's something to think about later. Right now, I just want to share these songs with whoever listens to this because that's the point of this. It's just to share what this song could be if it was actually produced by professional people, or if I could do it just in a shitty production style. I think I could get good. I don't want to totally shit on myself. I think I could become pretty good at producing my own music because I want it to be simple and raw and different than a lot of the polished shit that's out there today. There's so much polished shit, and I think eventually people won't want that anymore. Grunge became a thing in the 90s because people were sick of hair metal and just commercialized crap. Not that all hair metal was crap or all 80s hip hop was crap. There's plenty of good stuff. 80s country was, I guess, hit and miss. I don't really know. 80s country, that's a genre I don't really know. Dolly Parton, Garth Brooks. I never took the Garth Brooks dive. I don't know any Garth Brooks besides I Got Friends in Low Places. I don't know any Garth Brooks at all, and he's like one of the biggest selling artists of all time. So there's a lot of 80s, 90s country that I got no idea about. Lyle Lovett. Dwight Yoakam, I might have listened to him a little bit, but I don't really know his stuff that well. So yeah, there's just so much stuff to explore. 80s country is probably more like that. What was the Traveling Wilburys? You know, the band with George Harrison, Tom Petty, and I forget who else. Bob Dylan, maybe. Who was in the Traveling Wilburys? I don't even think that's how you say the name of the band. And this will be the last thing I look up today. Who was in the It is Wilburys. Traveling Wilburys. It was Jeff Lynne. I love Jeff Lynne. Roy Orbison, Tom Petty, Bob Dylan, George Harrison, and drummer was Jim Keltner. Again, yeah, drummers are underappreciated. Never heard of Jim Keltner, but he must have been good if they wanted him to drum. Yeah, this is like an all-star team of songwriters. Tom Petty, he's on my Mount Rushmore of songwriters. Bob Dylan on my Mount Rushmore of songwriters. I think I included Stevie Wonder and John Denver. Those are my four favorite songwriters, I think, that deserve to be on the Mount Rushmore of American songwriters. I probably would put Neil Young, but he's more Canadian, right? He's from Canada. But Jeff Lynne's awesome. Jeff Lynne, ELO stuff. Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of ELO stuff that I really, really enjoy. So, yeah, this is like a dream team. I figure that's like what a lot of 80s country sounded like. Yeah, I think of them because I think they were the late 80s, early 90s, I guess. But yeah, it's something I'll have to explore. 80s country music, that specific time period of country music, which was probably led by Dolly Parton, I would assume. Dolly Parton, and I don't really know. Who's the guy on Family Guy that they always kind of made fun of? All right, this is the last thing I'm looking up. Family Guy, country musician. I can't think. It's not Merle Haggard. And it is Conway Twitty. Yeah. When I used to go hunting for vinyl records at thrift stores all over the place, you would find a ton of that. Conway Twitty. But I don't know him at all. I don't want to make fun of him. He might actually be really good. He just had a unique fashion sense. But, all right, whatever. I'm rambling. I think what I said earlier is true, though, before I got on this weird tangent. In the 90s, people were like, fuck this commercialized cookie cutter hair metal shit, which there was some good stuff. I'm sure there was some shit. I don't really remember it. I just know Bon Jovi and that's it. When I was in like grade school, that's the only heavy metal I really knew was John Bon Jovi. Because maybe I was allowed to listen to him because he was from New Jersey. So he must be a good guy. He's from New Jersey. He must be cool. You can listen to Bon Jovi, but none of that Twisted Sister shit. But yeah, in the 90s, that's why there was such a need for, or there was an eagerness to get into punk rock and grunge because it was different than all the commercialized shit. I think today is different because the underground has been there. It's still there. It's not like they don't have a way to get their music out there. There's plenty of, well, maybe not plenty of opportunities, but there's ways to put your music out there if you're not on a big label through Bandcamp, which I love Bandcamp. I would share, because I always share music files on my posts through Spotify. I would share through Bandcamp, but I don't think it's as easy to do. I'm just used to Spotify, so that's just what I do, what I've done since I've been on Substack. But whatever, I just look at it like, even if you don't like Spotify for whatever reason, you could look that band up on whatever streaming service you use. So I don't really think of it like some political thing. Oh, he's using Spotify, this asshole. But where was I going with this? Yeah, so I think right now people might want like another grunge movement, or maybe not that specific type of style, but something different. Because there's so much polished stuff with auto-tune and everything. A lot of the commercial stuff, which I don't even listen to the radio, so how do I know? A lot of it sounds the same. And that's probably why bands like Nirvana just became a phenomenon in the early 90s. In the early 2000s, maybe the Strokes kind of fit that. The Strokes got really, really big. I don't know globally if they did, but when they first came out, the Strokes started like a new type of rock movement, or they were a part of it at least. Yeah, like you could go back to the 70s. I mentioned Patti Smith, like the whole New York punk rock thing, Detroit punk rock, Southern California punk rock in the 80s, hardcore stuff. So there's always an underground, I guess, but it's a question of will big major labels take a gamble on it. Once they saw Nirvana and they're like, fuck, there's a need for this, there's a market for this that's huge, then I guess other bands followed after Nirvana. Every grunge band in Seattle was probably trying to reform their image to look like Kurt Cobain. And I don't know. I don't really know. I don't want to speak for other people, other bands, but you reach a point where you're just like, shit, we have to sell out, man. We can't keep playing in like crappy clubs with assholes. We have to sell out, people. Like, I picture band meetings like that a lot. Like, fuck, all these principles we used to have. Fuck that. I don't want to get a real job. We're selling out, motherfucker. We're going to sell out in every possible way possible. And I'm not saying any of those bands even did. Like, the bands that I'm thinking of, Soundgarden, or even Bad Religion when they went to Atlantic for, like, Stranger Than Fiction, I think. That's my favorite Bad Religion album. It doesn't mean they changed their style or their general punk rock roots. They just were able to sell to more people, have a bigger market and distribution service. So yeah, selling out's kind of a stupid thing. Like yeah, you want to make fucking money, man. If you're in a grunge band in Seattle and then you see Nirvana selling 30, 40 million records, you're like, fuck this, man. We got to get on this train. Same with hip hop stuff. People wanted to break through in any way possible. But I don't really know where I'm going with this. Maybe I'm thinking of all these different genres because this album is all over the place. And I said I don't think I'd be able to perform all these songs unless I could develop 8 different personalities, but maybe I could do that because I'm a little wacky. All I have to do is just create new personalities for myself. My inner rapper, my inner heavy metal lead singer, my inner Led Zeppelin type of voice, falsetto, funk music, Afrobeat. I think the Talking Heads did it successfully, right? Do people accuse Talking Heads of like cultural appropriation or anything? Because they loved Afrobeat so much. They made that album kind of dedicated to that. And it was weird actually. At one of the Fela Kuti albums, all right, this is the last thing I'm saying. One of the Fela Kuti albums I heard, I was like, wow, that sounds like the Talking Heads when they made Remaining Light. So they were definitely, I wouldn't say copying. I don't want to disrespect the Talking Heads. They're up there, one of my favorite bands. Another discography I need to explore is Talking Heads. But I could see where they were coming from on Remain in Light. And I always said it's all good. If somebody listened to Remain in Light and they were like, wow, this is totally different than anything I've heard before. And then they'll probably get into Afrobeat, which was pretty much just Fela Kuti, right? Was there anybody else doing stuff like that? I know his sons do it. I think he has 2 sons that are musicians now. But yeah, that's a cool part of music, to explore different genres and just try to consume as much as you can without, making it seem like it's work, because it is a form of mental exhaustion. It can be if you just listen to too much in a short time span. You kind of have to spread it out to let your mind digest it. And I've kind of learned that too over the years, because I would get real manic with it, where I wanted to be a critic and make my top albums of the year, and I would just listen to close to 100 albums in like 1 month in December or January to try to catch up on stuff I missed out on. So yeah, it's a cool process. To me, movies are different. I was just thinking, like, if I wanted to, Like I can look at all the movies that were nominated for Best Picture this year, which I haven't watched any of them, and I would just watch them in like 2 days probably. 'Cause movies are different for me. I don't have to really feel like it's a job watching a movie, but when I listen to music, it's like I want to pick up what's going on and kind of realize what the drums are doing and what's the theory behind this and what does this remind me of? What do I think this person was influenced by? That's why I make these videos, to show people my process and to clearly state what I'm being influenced by. Some of these bands have been with me a long time, like even Susan Tedeschi band. Again, it was XPN maybe a decade ago. You hear one of her songs and you're like, shit, I gotta get into that. And it just kind of grows from there. But music is different for me. Even listening to music, if it's something new, I really want to give it more of my brain, more of my attention span. If it's something I've heard like a million times, like NoFX or Bad Religion, and I just want to exercise, then Joy Formidable, it kind of just connects with me, and I don't really have to use my brain to analyze it because it's already part of like my DNA. So it's different when you want to explore and rank an artist, like I want to do over the next couple months. Fela Kuti, Bad Religion, I want to go through their discography and really rank everything. And there was a number of other ones, Pavement, and I forget the other ones, maybe Sun Ra. There's so many bands that I want to get more educated about so I can appear more, so I don't have to fake it. I could be like, oh yeah, that album, blah, 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 the Fela Kuti one from 1976, he started doing that weird keyboard thing. But that's not the real reason. I just want to listen to good music and be immersed in that so I can just disappear in Fela Kuti's crazy head for half an hour, 40 minutes. I found a lot of his stuff's like just 2 songs. It's just like every album is just like 2 songs, 20 minutes each. So it's a different experience. I actually enjoy that better. And it's like you can just really get into the groove of a jam band. But I'll cut it here. After doing this, I'm going to make a post of the entire album just to make it easier so you can read all my lyrics on one page. And when I do that, that's going to be my 300th post on Substack. So that turned out pretty cool. I didn't mean to do it like that. For my 200th post, which was only like a year ago, I tried to be a stand-up comedian and do like a short 5-minute stand-up routine. And it was so bad. But I still have it on there. I didn't delete it. It's really stupid and my timing's terrible. But of course I'm going to be bad at it. I never tried to do stand-up comedy before. But I told myself I would use Substack to explore anything. And even if it's shit, I'll keep it on there just to demonstrate. I don't know. What am I demonstrating? How hard it is to do stand-up comedy, I guess. 'Cause I'm not going to be ashamed of saying stupid shit or trying something new that I'm just not good at the moment. I'm just going to do it and see how it turns out and see how I can get better at it. That's how I view it. Just hard work and no bullshit. So today I will do 2 posts. I'll do a post about this song, listing all the influences, the lyrics, and this recording, and then I'll do a separate post of just the entire album of 8 songs that I've analyzed this week. And who knows, this could be the best album I've done so far, because every song is like a radio song. The concept is a guy tuning his radio while he's driving and listening to these songs. So in my imaginary head, in my imaginary world that this guy is living in, these are all songs that are on the radio. So maybe that's hopefully some kind of prophetic uh, theme that could really work in the real world. Yeah, that would be the coolest thing to actually have these songs come into existence so other people could listen to them for real, and not just the blueprints that I've shared over this week and in my other albums. That's the ultimate goal that I've always kind of that I state over and over again, which is why I wanted to do my Kickstarter and get started on that. And we'll just have to wait and see because there's not much more I can control. All I can do as an artist is just create stuff and put it out there. And well, I wanted to say hope for the best or go with the flow, but more than that, just be more willing to explore anything that's coming out as a creative entity. Just put it out there to the world and see where it ends up.